Hi, I'm Coach MK, founder of the Fitness Protection Program. I'm a run coach, not a life coach. We're never really talking about the running. Running is the tool. It's the conduit we use to examine the world we live in, as well as its impact on our own lives and the lives of the people around us. How we react to certain people and to certain stories tells us a lot about how we view ourselves. I'm committed to the thoughtful, intentional exploration of the importance of running so that no one discounts their own badassery, ever. Final note, this podcast is geared towards every runner who won't lose their home, livelihood, or health insurance if they show up to the corral with a hangover. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, just saying. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Fitness Protection Podcast.
Hi, happy Black Friday, everybody. This is Coach Sarah with the Fitness Protection Program.
And this is Chris, also with the Fitness Protection Program, but I am kind of out from the shadows. And
out from the shadows!
Yes, I get to talk today.
You get to talk. Oh my God. Well, I love it when you talk, and happily I get to hear you talk all the time, but our wonderful podcast listeners almost never get to hear you talk. And we're not fancy enough to have you in the same room with us. So I love in those podcasts, there's a podcast that I listen to where they always turn around to say something to their producer, and then the producer will make fun of them on the mic. And I love that. And I feel like that would be so fun if we could do that. But unfortunately, we do not have a fancy studio where we get to sit in the same room as you, as much as that would make me happy. So today you get to be on the podcast with me, and that is just so exciting. So happy Black Friday. And something that we want to announce that is happening today, that is beginning today, very, very, very exciting. It's the Fitness Protection Holiday Strength Challenge. Holiday Strong! Chris, are you ready to get Holiday Strong?
I need some Holiday Strong.
Tell me about that.
Well, let's see. My husband has been working crazy hours, so I've kind of been doing a lot of parenting on my own. I am the mom of a special needs son. He's amazing, but he's on the autism spectrum, so it's a lot of work. And just the normal holiday craziness that I think a lot of people have to deal with. You know, there's just so many reasons I think a lot of us could use it, but those are some of the ones that I really could use some Holiday Strong. And I'm so excited for Fitness Protection to be helping me out with that.
Yes. And if any of you were listening to Chris just now and nodding along with any of the things that she was talking about, if you can relate to any of that, if you have completely different challenges that are really coming up in your face this kind of year, whether of the physical nature, of an emotional nature, we are here for you. And the Holiday Strength Challenge is all about making sure that you have the strength in your body and in your mind to get through the holidays above and beyond your running. So the first level of the Holiday Strength Challenge is free. You get one weekly exercise that will be shared through our social media channels. And all you need to do to be entered into a drawing to win some of our awesome swag or the grand prize of 1 year of fitness protection, all you need to do is take pictures of yourselves doing the challenge of the week and post them on your Facebook or Instagram and tag us with hashtag FPP Holiday Strong. That is our hashtag. It is amazing. MK came up with it because she is a genius, a beautiful genius. The second level of the Holiday Strength Challenge gets you more. If you are feeling like you need more than just one extra little bit of MK and one extra little bit of the Fitness Protection Program in your week, there is a second level available. You may make donations of a minimum of $20 to either the Blue Bench in Denver, Colorado, which provides services to survivors of sexual assault, or to Play University, which is an after-school program in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you donate $20 either to one of the two organizations or $20 split between the two organizations, you get a discount coupon for $20 off of Slow Burn, which is our strength program starting in January and in February. And you can use that coupon for any of the Slow Burn offerings during 2020. It is the only coupon we will be offering for that program. And in addition, you'll be entered in a drawing for some amazing prizes, including all 10 steps of Coach MK skincare routine, vintage Coach and Love shoe tags, Cocotte earrings, which are amazing. You may have seen pictures of me wearing them in Atlanta. MK very kindly lent me some of hers. They are the most exquisite earrings I've ever held in my hands, let alone worn in my ears. And also, of course, some fitness protection swag and a coloring book drawing of your family by our illustrator and corporate wayfinder, Kara Gerard. So that is for $20. You can win any of those things and you get access to our 4 strength moves per week instead of just 1. And if you donate $45 to all one organization or split between the two, you are eligible for the grand prize, which we will be announcing soon. And you also get a $45 coupon off of Slow Burn that you can use at any time during 2020. So you have a lot of options. There are a lot of ways to participate. If you do not have the extra cash at this time of year to make a donation, and we totally understand because this is the time of year when cash gets pretty strapped, you can participate in the free level and we would love to have you. And you get entries into the drawings every time you post a picture of yourself and you tag us. I promise you all this is going to be really funny. This is going to be really silly. And it's also going to be really, really supportive, both physically and mentally. So please join us, get excited. We will post a link to the event page in the show notes for this episode. That is starting today. The first move, which is available to anyone who participates, is going to be available today. Get excited. It's going to be so much fun. This episode is going to be dropping hopefully in the morning on Friday, November 29th. And Friday, November 29th, in addition to being the first day of the Holiday Strength Challenge, is Black Friday. So Chris, what's your Black Friday deal? Do you have traditions? Do you go to a place to shop? Do you have online sales that you're excited about? What has been the role of Black Friday in your life leading up to now?
I, for a while, whenever I was in college, worked retail. So Black Friday was not fun.
Oh my God. Where did you work?
I worked at Victoria's Secret.
Oh man. Oh man.
I enjoyed my time for the most part, but yeah, like there were some people who are absolutely great and they come in and they just like love the Black Friday shopping. And those people are really enjoyable, but there's definitely like the people that get mad when the deal is gone, like, you know, like the doorbusting deals and stuff and they don't get them. And so it can be kind of stressful. So now I like to just shop online for Black Friday. And even wait for like the Cyber Monday, stuff like that. That is kind of my deal now. Like I can stay in my pajamas. I can have a cup of coffee. I start whenever I wake up. And that's kind of what I do. I mean, do you have any Black Friday traditions?
So when I was in college, I think that's the first time I ever shopped Black Friday. I did work at Banana Republic, but seasonally, it was really only like during the summers and kind of like on an after school basis. And I did not work Black Friday because my family would not have allowed me to. That's family time. But I usually travel to St. Louis where my family lives on Black Friday. And the first time I ever, or for Thanksgiving rather, not just for Black Friday, St. Louis where Black Friday really, you know, that's the Black Friday capital of the United States.
Was I missing something for Black Friday?
Extra special trip, you know, traveling on the worst travel days of the year just to be in St. Louis, Missouri for Black Friday. Yeah. No, I have a lot of family in St. Louis and we used to go there for Thanksgiving. And I have a cousin 2 years older than me. And when we were in college, we had a tradition of like getting up early together and going to Starbucks and going to 2 different malls in the St. Louis area as early as possible and just, you know, hitting all our favorite stores like the Gap. And what I distinctly remember is the year that I had just lost 60 pounds on Weight Watchers. And that year was a combination of just like incredible feelings of accomplishment because I could wear clothes at all of these, you know, straight size stores that honestly I couldn't have walked into before without being afraid that their biggest size wouldn't fit me. So a combination of feeling like really accomplished about that, but also a great deal of fear that this wasn't going to last and that I was only being sort of accepted into this part of society for a very short amount of time and that inevitably I was going to screw it up eventually. It was the only time that I felt deserving of buying things for myself. That was kind of a new feeling for me. And so it's weird to think back to it because at the time I was like, this is so great. Look at me, I'm buying all these new clothes because I need them because none of my old clothes fit me. but there were a lot of weird, shamey feelings mixed up in there. And also the idea that this is the day. This is the one day because everything's on sale and I can only buy stuff for myself when it's on sale. Otherwise, I have had this notion baked into me from a very young age that, you only shop when there are coupons and you never pay full price for anything. And I think that that's a mentality that has been baked into a lot of people. And it's part of what I think makes Black Friday so compelling. So I've found it interesting to kind of unpack that slowly over the course of the years and also to, try and look at buying things for myself differently. And we're going to get to that. And before we do, I want to read some of the things that people wrote to us when we asked about what do you do for Black Friday to the rest of our community. So Trisha wrote me an email and said, yes, I have shopped on Black Friday. Specifically, we said, we want to know about, do you go to a store? Do you go to a brick and mortar store? Do you show up? Do you do the doorbuster deals? Are you harassing Chris at Victoria's Secret at 6 a.m. or whatever time Victoria's Secret opens?
Midnight.
Like, I want to know about it. Oh my God. Okay. So really midnight. Wow.
That was sometimes, I don't know if they do, but sometimes it was on Thanksgiving Day. I never worked Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, it made me sad to hear about, hours at stores spilling over onto Thanksgiving Day. I can only hope that the pay was excellent. I can't imagine that it necessarily was in all cases, but I really hope so. So Trisha wrote and said, yes, I have shopped on Black Friday. Several years ago, we flew to Northern California to spend Thanksgiving with my husband's cousin who has 4 daughters and had been recently widowed. After Thanksgiving dinner, we took a big nap and headed out around midnight. We drove to the outlet mall in Gilroy, garlic capital of the world. And there we found festivity and so many bargains. We bought Christmas gifts. We had crazy sales. And in the middle of the night, the vibe was very chill. We made it home around 4 a.m. and went back to sleep. I would totally do it again, especially with fun friends. That sounds really lovely, I have to say.
That sounds like a wonderful Black Friday experience.
Yeah. And like the whole sort of adventure, like let's take a big nap and then let's hit it. I love that idea. Thank you for sharing that, Trisha. That warms my heart. Sarah wrote, in my 20s, I went from college dorm apartment to my parents' house for grad school to live with a boyfriend. When that relationship imploded, I stayed with my parents a few weeks and then got an apartment. I needed kitchen basics and stood in line at the crack of dawn's local Walmart to get a screaming deal on pots and pans. This was back when Black Friday shopping started early in the morning and not on Thanksgiving Day, like we were just talking about. I got my pots and pans, but overall didn't enjoy the experience and haven't set foot in a store on Black Friday since then. I look forward to family time and time at home to get stuff done over the holiday weekend. Amen to that. I think that's really kind of what makes the difference, right? Like, is this a stress mission? Is this a must accomplish this? And this is the only way I can do it and afford it? Or is it more of sort of an adventuring type of outing? And I think that there are people that come down on both sides of that, but I can honestly see how that makes the difference between it being a great experience and being I don't ever want to do that again experience. Someone else said, this is Meg, the only thing I do is go to Target and buy a few things so I can get the 10% off coupon for later. I run away as fast as I can. And Cavalin says, not anymore. In college, I used to go to JCPenney before work on Black Friday with my sister to connect to the snow globe they gave away. I love that. Then my husband and I did a couple years of early morning Black Friday shopping to score some really good deals. That was pre-kids, so at least 10 years ago. Now I treasure sleep and can't handle crowds. And finally, Barb says, for as long as I can remember, my husband and daughter have gone out together with a list and a plan. Note, my husband is not a shopper. One store, Fleet Farm, gives the first 1,000 customers a stuffed animal every year. This will be the first year my daughter won't be able to go. Adulting sucks. Oh, yeah. What I'm really hearing there in this is that, stages of life kind of open up new opportunities and close old ones for what this holiday can mean for you. And I think a big one that was sort of heard in a couple of people's and what you said, and also in my experience, is having kids makes a really big difference. It really depends on the age of your kids. How much do you really want to go to JCPenney at midnight or at 6 a.m. if you have a little kid who inevitably isn't going to have school that day? Taking my daughter to any big box store now, I know that I have to anticipate that there is going to be a big display of Frozen 2 merchandise, because there is at basically every store I've walked into in the last month. So basically, she's not going shopping with me until the whole Frozen thing dies down, which I don't know when that's going to happen. At least January.
Well, it's like similar. My son with Star Wars stuff. He's a big Star Wars fan and knows everything. And Star Wars is there's always Star Wars out, that and like Legos. But my husband did a brilliant thing. And when we were out and it seemed to click with him is we tell him, no, that's for somebody else. And he's usually pretty good about that. I was surprised how well he accepted that. So we'll let him know. We'll know that one's for somebody else.
That's really smart.
Yeah. You know, my husband, I don't always like to give him credit, but he's kind of smart. Actually,
Man,
he's really smart.
I feel you on that. It hurts to say it sometimes.
Yeah, but he's really smart, and hopefully he won't listen. But, you know.
But you never know when they do. My husband sometimes does. And I don't know. I don't hear about it until much later. So that brings up a really good point that I wanted to talk about too, which is like sort of the mixed messaging around this holiday, Thanksgiving, but also, you know, the December holidays, Christmas for many of us, Hanukkah for some of us, holidays that involve gift giving. But certainly the culture in the United States, I think, centers itself around, you know, Christmas and to a lesser extent Hanukkah as far as like an opportunity to buy our products, but also, you know, generosity. And this is a season of thinking about others. And I think that it's tough to square that to the idea of this is a time of year to be super generous and to think about people other than yourself with the mentality that like these deals, you cannot miss them. They are only here once a year. This is the way to get the best deal. Like Sarah going shopping getting her screaming deal on pots and pans because she needed them. And that was the only way she was going to be able to afford it. It's like, this is an opportunity that you cannot miss. And it's an opportunity to optimize. And what do we do in this culture if not optimize at every possible turn? And what do we feel if not less than when we're not optimizing the most possible?
And the sense of urgency that they put on people.
Yes, it's very intentional and it works. And it certainly worked on me. And so when I think back to the way I felt about shopping that year that I was all of a sudden wearing like size 8 clothes, which I had not, a size that I had not seen since I was in 6th grade. And all of the feelings that it produced in me, not only the feeling like, yes, you finally deserve this, but also you only deserve this because it's all on sale right now. I've really grappled with that. And it causes me to not buy things for myself when I need them just because there's no coupon. But it also causes me to buy stuff that I don't need when there are coupons because it's an opportunity that I can't miss. You know what I mean?
Yes. Definitely. I can totally relate to the deal thing. And my weight, it was more stress where I went really, really too thin and then I gained weight. But mine was a stress out of feeling like my body didn't work. My husband and I struggled with infertility and I could not have a baby. I mean, eventually we had our son, IVF, which was amazing, but it took 5 years and a lot of pain and stress. And I would stress as I'd eat, so then I'd gain weight. I would try to control something and I could, you know, quote unquote, control my weight. I didn't actively realize it in the moment, but it also caused me to not really, like we were saying, where it's like, you don't deserve things. You know what I mean? Like my body didn't deserve, and for whichever reason, whether it was because it didn't work or it didn't look right. And, you know, and it's tough, especially too, then when you add that, like, well, I got to do this now. Like, I got to buy this, I got to do that. And then, but you're also like the rationalizing of like, I can do it because it's on sale now.
Yeah. That makes it okay all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, but then I think too, with the holiday, it makes it really difficult because you said like, you know, these two kind of colliding. We have like the Thanksgiving and the Christmas colliding together. So it's like, oh, the grateful and thankful for everybody else. And, you know, I think, you know, a lot of times too, I know as myself, like I am way more likely to buy my husband, my son, or somebody else something before I will go and spend that money on me. You know, they deserve it before me. And the thing is, my husband would not agree with that. You know, he would definitely say, hey, let's go do this for you. But I find those excuses. So I think the holidays can be hard because, you know, like you buy these things for everybody else. And it's like, so you go back into that mindset too of all these, like these holiday things where you're putting the focus on everybody else, which it kind of makes it difficult because it's not a bad thing, but we lose ourselves and the self-care we need to do for ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. And I've heard echoes of that in discussions that we've started to have in our community about what this holiday means. And I know that we'll be revisiting it with Jumi and Dahlia on an upcoming podcast. So get excited for that. Jumi Olawale, the therapist, and Dahlia Kinsey, the school nutrition dietitian. They have amazing perspectives on these kinds of struggles. And I'm really looking forward to making this season about examining that a little bit more. And for today, since today is Black Friday, as you're listening to this, I also want to talk about how can you score some really cool shit for yourself? Because if you have a little bit of money to spend on yourself and you want to spend it on your running, I think there are really good ways to do that. And this does happen to be a really good time of year for it. So we're going to include in the show notes links to a couple of videos that MK did last year on Black Friday, because I think that they're really instructive about how to look at the offerings. Because like we were saying, it can be overwhelming. Oh my God, all these opportunities, all these deals, like which are really good deals? Which are the ones that I absolutely have to take advantage of? And you really have to start with what you want and what you need to get. And the way MK ranked the different sort of things to look for on Black Friday was number 1, upgrades, number 2, essentials, and number 3, cool shit. So I think number 3, cool shit, is the most self-explanatory of all of those, but we'll get to it in time. The upgrades category, which is number 1 for a reason. It's a good idea now before you get flooded. Well, not now, because you're listening to this on Black Friday. Chris and I are recording this a few days before Black Friday. I think it's a good idea to assess before you start buying things, what are the things in your running repertoire that need to be upgraded. And a lot of the things that we really like as runners, a lot of products that we've talked about before, and we don't get money for any of the things that we recommend. They're not paid endorsements. They are personal recommendations, but we have recommended a lot of different things before. Like people have asked about stuff for running in the dark, and we've recommended Knuckle Lights, and I've personally recommended Nox Gear, the 360 vest. And Knuckle Lights and Nox Gear are the 2 things that allow me to run outside. Those are both, like many companies that sell some of the best running gear that we like the most, they are small companies. They're small businesses that cannot afford to offer coupons all year. So as we record this, I do not know for sure what the discounts are going to be offered at Polar, for example, at Stride. And we'll talk about those specifically in a minute. But usually Polar and Stride and Knuckle Lights and Nox Gear and other companies along those same lines, about that same size, offering those kinds of products, running tech, other sorts of running accessories. A lot of times these companies will only offer coupons once a year. And if they're going to do it once a year, they're going to do it on Black Friday or Cyber Monday. And the reason for that is that they're small companies and they need to grow. We know about that. It is hard to be a small company with a good product that you really believe in, that you need to grow and you cannot afford to offer discounts. And it's not even just about not being able to afford to offer discounts. It's about not wanting to train customers to only buy your stuff when you are offering a discount. And that is a thing in marketing that companies, small businesses really struggle with. If you train your customers to only buy when there's a coupon and you can't afford to give them a coupon more than once a year, it's impossible to grow. So having said that, this is a good time of year to be on the lookout for the things that you have been thinking about upgrading, or you think you will want to upgrade in the next year, because you might not get another chance to buy any of these things at a discount until a year from now. So one of the companies I mentioned is Polar. And as it happens, all of us, and MK has talked about this on Ask Away, a lot of people ask her about her watch preferences. And I would say the exact same thing that she says, which is the reason that I run with Polar is because I'm used to running with a Polar watch. It is the only kind of watch I've ever run with. And so at this point, if I were to switch to Garmin, it would just be a switch to a totally different system that I would have to then get used to. So that is my reason for being loyal, so to speak, to Polar, is that this is the system that I'm used to. So don't take that as a knock on Garmin or any of the other people making watches. I know that there are a lot of companies that make watches that are doing really cool stuff. I'm sure a lot of them are going to have a Black Friday or a Cyber Monday discount. So when it comes to thinking about what to spend your money on and what you need, if you're looking to upgrade your watch, thinking about the kind of thing that you need to get is going to be really valuable. So Chris, you mentioned that you were thinking about upgrading your watch. Tell me about that.
I still have a Polar M400.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I had until very recently, about a month ago.
And I have been considering, and it's one of 2 things, either looking at the Polar 430 or going to the Vantage M. I go back and forth. And the thing is, it would be solid Vantage M, but I have an Apple Watch and I wear it all the time. So one of the things is how much more beneficial to go to the Vantage M over the 430, which I know will give me what I need. We were talking about the Stride, and that is something I would be considering. And if that's the case, then maybe I need to do the Vantage M.
Yes. So this is the thing when you're thinking about upgrading something. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I imagine that the price difference between a 430 and a Vantage M is considerable.
I think it's at least 100.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere in there,
So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money in addition to what you're already spending on a new watch. Spending $100 more to get the Vantage M when it's unclear whether it would be a huge benefit to you. I think the way you're thinking about it is really good. You know, how are these two things that I'm comparing going to work with the other tech in my life? Is it going to add a bunch of extra steps to like syncing and whatever that are going to annoy me and irritate me and, you know, like diminish the user experience for me on a daily basis? But also thinking about down the line, what do I want this watch to do now? What might I want it to do in the future? So you mentioned the Stride, and one of the big differences between the M430 and Polar Vantage M is that the Polar Vantage M and the Vantage V both have the ability to sync with a power meter. So the Polar Vantage V, which is twice as expensive as the Polar Vantage M, the Polar Vantage V calculates power from your wrist. Although what I've heard and what MK has said is that wrist-based power calculations are not really worth all that much. What you really need is a foot pod. And the Stride is a foot pod that calculates power and altitude, I believe. And also there's a new version of the Stride that basically power accounts for a lot more variables and can be a really, really, really valuable metric to track. And we'll be talking more about that in the future. Stride is a really cool product. Another very small company trying to grow, having a hard time keeping up with demand sometimes. So they cannot afford to train their market to only buy when there's a discount, and they cannot afford to offer discounts very often. It is likely, based on what they've done in the past, that they're going to offer a discount on the Stride this year. Same as it is likely that Polar is going to offer a really big discount on its products, same as it's done in the past for Black Friday / Cyber Monday. So if you're thinking about, okay, I need a watch that's going to do all of these things that I want it to do today, what are the chances that sometime in the lifetime of this watch, it's going to annoy me that I can't sync it up to a Stride power meter, you know, because the M430 closes off that road for you. So what is that option worth to you, you know?
And that's where it has came down to it. And I have gone back and forth because I'm like, I would love that information. I love that data. I love seeing it, but what does that mean to me? What am I going to get out of it? Does it really matter that much? You know, am I going to use it? And I don't know how much I would use that information, but at the same time, I know I really like it. So I have kind of been thinking the Vantage M because like, I know it might not be something I want right now, but like you said, down the road, the more I'm doing this, because right now I'm training for my first marathon.
Yay! So exciting.
So, you know, being able to have more information as, you know, I'm continuing running is something I think I would want. So that's where, you know, it does make it very difficult because I think the Vantage M, like we were saying, down the road is going to be more of what I want. But right now, all I need is the 430.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, is that $100 worth those extra options down the road? And that's something that you do have to think about. But I think it's so much more helpful to think about it in those terms. When I look at this as an upgrade, how much of an upgrade is it really if it doesn't give me new options for something that I might feasibly want in the future? The other thing that the Vantage M does that the M430 does not do is that it calculates, if you wear it all the time, it calculates your overall cardio load, a metric called the TRIMP score, which MK has also talked about on this podcast before. So if you are someone who is going to wear this watch all the time and you have a lot of other kind of little physical activity baked into your day, like I bike very frequently to and from my daughter's preschool, and having that information about how much all of the other stuff I'm doing during the day is affecting my overall cardio load, even though it's not a perfect metric, it's still interesting information to have. But if you are not going to wear this watch all the time, like I do, you're not going to have that information. It's not going to give you that. So what are the things over and above the M430 that the Vantage M offers that you are going to take advantage of. That's really where you need to be looking at the value of that extra $100. Like, what are you getting for that extra $100 that you're spending, you know? And I think that when you think about kind of the core things that you use every day, like for me at this point in the year, knuckle lights and 360 vest, every day I wear those because it is dark in the morning every time I go running. Your watch that you run with, every day, I'm guessing you wear your watch. That's kind of how many of us train these days. So if you're going to spend the money on an upgrade, I think it's helpful to kind of take oh my God, these opportunities and I have to optimize and all this stuff out of it and just think about like, what do I need to get? And what am I actually getting for the extra money that I'm spending for this more upgraded thing? Is that something I need or not? So the second category of thing that MK talks about is the essentials. The essentials are, again, the things that you use every day, all the time. Training Peaks is kind of number one on that list. I'm pretty sure that everyone in fitness protection uses Training Peaks. That's the best and easiest way to get our plans. That's how we push them out to people. And Training Peaks does have a free version that you can use for the rest of your life. It also has a premium version that offers a lot more data, a lot more flexibility, so you can move your workouts around. And that is a feature that I use frequently because I'm a little bit of a juggler sometimes, especially when I'm not training for something specifically. And it gives you a much broader interface to work with in Training Peaks. And so if Training Peaks Premium is something you've been kind of coveting, and we'll post a link to like sort of a breakdown of what you get in basic versus what you get in premium, this is the one time of year that Training Peaks will offer a discount. So if you're thinking about it, or if you bought Training Peaks Premium on Black Friday last year, this is a good time of year to re-up and save that money. There are some things that you know you're always going to want to use that are not going to go away. And if those things are the types of things that are going to offer a deal on this day only, it might be worth putting down the money right now at this particular moment because you know it's not going to come along again. And as far as, you know, cool shit that you like and that is exciting to you, that's a place where I think it's okay to kind of go with your gut a little bit and see what's out there that really excites you. And again, try not to look at it as like, this is something that I can only do if it's on sale. This is something that I only deserve if it's at a discount. Don't buy something that is going to make you feel guilty later unless you're really able to kind of reframe that decision into, this is something that I want and that is going to increase the quality of whatever it is that I'm doing. So that can be like your favorite apparel. That can be like whatever sort of, whatever the cool new sunglasses you've been looking at are. Running sunglasses have just never looked good on my face at all. My running store sometimes has like cool discounts on the crazy new sunglasses. And those are just things that I know that I would never spend money on, but it's very personal. What feels cool and exciting to you that you could buy yourself this time of year that you know is going to increase your running quality of life? You know what I mean? Running
apparel for me can kind of go both in the necessities and cool shit, because it's a good time for me to like kind of replace some things that have gotten really gross.
Yeah, upgrades.
Yeah, yes, that would be upgrades too. And also to get some discounts like on the tech wear and stuff like that. So it's stuff that I would need. But then also sometimes there's just like really cool shit with the apparel that I probably wouldn't get, you know, because I'm like, well, I don't need it. And it's like more than I want to spend, but I'm like, but it's on sale today. And, you know, I really want that running tank, you know, like, or those capris are really neat, like, and they're really cute. Type of thing.
And if this is the time of year that you feel like you can kind of add in new elements to your running repertoire, again, to use that word, you know, last year at this time, I got myself a jacket, and I had never had a running jacket before. I'm a big believer in layers, as I've said many times, but getting myself like a dedicated jacket that is, you know, meant to be for running, that has the right kind of venting in it and that sort of thing, you know, I would put that in the category of cool shit. So it's not something that I consider essential because I ran for years without one. It is not an upgrade because I do not have an existing version that needed to be upgraded. It's just something that is going to add quality to what I have at my fingertips when I'm running in the wintertime, which is a big part of my year. And there's a lot of cool shit every year. I'm not going to buy all the cool shit every year, but maybe one thing in the cool shit category, which I'm going to buy this year and then hopefully wear for several winters. And then I get to upgrade it when it gets old and gross. And obviously these discussions are all contingent on like having money on hand to spend on yourself at this time of year. And I know that that's always a tricky question. It's a tricky question for moms. It's a tricky question for anyone who is in a household where they're expected to provide for others this time of year. I don't want to discount that at all or make light of it or pretend that it doesn't exist. And I know that these kinds of questions bring up big feelings for a lot of people. Very recently, my husband and I had a conversation where I tearfully confessed to him that I always thought I was the kind of person that didn't want him to give me jewelry, but like, God damn it, actually, I would like it if he gave me jewelry. And he has, it's not like he's never given me any jewelry. He has given me a few things, but I was very invested in a version of myself that did not need jewelry. Like, who needs that? That's not me. I'm more practical than that. I was very invested in that version of myself, and it wasn't actually true. And what I was doing by kind of ignoring things that actually might have made me very happy was really both denying myself and like denying myself even the possibility of wanting something that I actually did kind of want. And I felt really ashamed. I felt really ashamed of saying that. And he was like, I don't understand. I mean, I understand, but I don't understand why you feel so ashamed of saying this. Like, this makes complete sense to me. And I was like, really? It does.
He probably like would like to give you something you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would make you feel good.
Right. And it doesn't have to be so practical every time. Like, I feel like I always need to say, I only want these very practical things because I'm a practical person. I'm not saying that everyone has like a hidden yen for jewelry like me. But I do think that it can be very hard to listen to our true feelings about these things because so much about giving and receiving is just cloaked in a lot of shame for people, and shame about wanting things, and insecurity about gift giving, and feelings when you receive gifts that you feel like don't telegraph any sort of real thought or love or attention. Gift giving and buying things for other people and buying things for yourself, it's a much more fraught subject than we give it credit for.
It can be stressful too. Kids go to school and say what they got. And then like, I think like the pressure of parents to like, you want to do as much you can for your kids, but you also need to keep it in reality of what is reasonable for you to afford. And it can be really, really difficult to kind of just mentally balance that. It's just so difficult for me because like with our own son, it's like, yeah, like you want to spoil your kid as much as you're able to. Like, I feel like no matter whatever means you have, you want to spoil your kids so much.
It feels good to give them things. It really does.
But at the same time, it's like, going to school and it's like, why did Santa bring this kid so much more than me? And that's just really difficult.
It is.
And it just puts a lot of pressure on parents or, caregivers or whoever. Like you said, it can kind of sometimes take away in the shame and stuff of the gift giving instead of it just being what we want it to be. And here, I know that this is something that would make you happy.
Yeah. And I think, there's a lot that goes around this year in the op-ed pages of all the newspapers saying, got to teach your kids about gratitude. And gratitude is a really tricky subject. And I think that it is one that gets turned into a bullshit stick so easily. And I think that this is a time of year where there are a lot of shoulds. We feel so many shoulds about, well, what should I be grateful for? Well, you should be grateful for your family. They're the only one you've got. And like, I think part of what I'm trying to do with myself this year is to accept my complicated feelings about a lot of the things that I have felt in the past, like I quote unquote should feel grateful for. And family is a big one of those because there is the social media performance of gratitude for family, which is, at least in my age group, I have a lot of friends who are having babies at this time in their lives. There are a lot of social media posts that really trigger me because they just show this depiction of like wonderful love and gratitude. I'm so grateful for my family and all that I've been given. And there are a lot of feelings of both sort of resentment, but also shame that I struggle to produce some of those same feelings in myself sometimes. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But setting the reasons themselves aside, I'm working on accepting the fact that gratitude is complicated. It is not as easy to summarize it. Like gift giving, there is a lot that's rolled up into it that it deserves being examined and that is very hard to actually examine and unpack in the context of a nice, shiny social media post. And that's not to say that I think people should, be more honest. That's not what I'm saying. We've talked about that before. Like I'm not going to post on Instagram like, hey, I have very complicated feelings about my family. My Instagram followers don't need to know that. And it's not really fair, I don't think, because those complicated feelings come from a lot of different places. And putting them out there into the world in whatever way doesn't necessarily make them better. And it doesn't necessarily change them. I think the change that I'm really trying to make is acceptance of my feelings, willingness to let them be what they are without trying to mold them. And then ultimately, that moves to focusing on what I actually am grateful for. And one of the things that I'm trying to cultivate gratitude for is this space, these people, where at the Holiday Strength Challenge, Holiday Strong is a place where you do not have to perform gratitude. In fact, it is a place where we encourage you to give space to what your feelings really are and let them be, even if you're not sure you understand them or know how to frame them. Are there any things, Chris, for you that you feel the pressure of gratitude that you've been working on or that you're examining?
It's kind of hard because that's a loaded question.
Sorry.
Because it's actually something when I knew you and I were going to do this podcast and we were going to talk about it, I tried to think and I think a lot of things that I have gratitude for, I'm very grateful for. It's not just real easy, cut and dry, black and white, how it works. Well, yes, I'm grateful for my family and friends like everybody puts, but it's not that simple. And like you said, to put it out like a social media post of, yes, I'm grateful for all of you people, but yeah. And I think, at least for me, being honest, I think that it's probably true for a lot of people because, we're complicated people. And
yeah.
It's sometimes I've told my husband, I'd be I love you, but right now I don't know if I like you in this moment. And he completely gets it. And it's just we're having one of those moments, but it takes away nothing from it. And I think that's kind of how gratitude can be for me. I am grateful for so many things and so many people, but that doesn't mean that every moment of the day or year, however it might work, that I'm always happy, comfortable, or whatever with my situation with them. Like I said, that's kind of a loaded question. As my therapist has said, she's when it gets to family issues, I don't like doing that because most people I talk to have a very good family life and upbringing. I mean, there are some that have some very troubled backgrounds, but when we bring up some of the issues you might have had with family members, parents, or anything, it's not necessarily that they did a bad job, but with what they had, the knowledge or the resources or whatever it was, what they were able to give, the bandwidth that they had in that moment, it had an impact on you, and it doesn't mean that they were doing necessarily wrong, but it did affect you. It did hurt you. And so it's not cut and dry. So yeah, there's some hard things, but I also am working on realizing okay, that was something that was out of their control in the moment and mine, because even now when it's easier as a parent, it's I screw up daily. Every day I mess up.
But you're taking the pressure off of yourself to demand perfection, both from yourself and from, your own parents and your own family. And I think there's something about the whole gratitude for family thing that almost demands you to mold them into a version that you can be grateful for. That's a disappointing and hard road to go down.
Exactly.
I think what you're saying is so smart, and it's such a smart way to come at the pressure that we can feel to, again, mold our lives into something that looks like what we're supposed to be grateful for. That's kind of the wrong way to go about it. One of the things that we encourage ourselves within our community, but then also, want to put out there in the world is looking at things a little bit differently, kind of changing the equation in terms of what you put first, what you shore up in your Jenga tower. And if you want more about the Jenga tower, go listen to the Maintain podcast versus what you pull out first. and hope that the rest of the tower will survive. I'll leave that as a cliffhanger so that people will go listen to the Maintain podcast.
It's a good podcast.
It's an amazing podcast. One of my favorite ones we've done. And also Jenga is a great game to play with your family so that you don't have to have awkward conversations.
We do Uno.
Oh, Uno's a good one. Yeah. My husband and I like board games, and it's hard to find board games you can play with two people. But can Cal play Uno? Is that one that you can all play together?
Well, Thanksgiving with my family, there can be 20, 30 or more people there. And yeah, we've been doing Uno since I can remember when we were little. And my great aunt would cheat when she was
Oh my God.
and we'd all joke.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we could joke about it. It was kind of endearing.
Oh yeah, yeah. An older family member on my husband's side of the family was also known for that. When we played dominoes or cribbage, and it it is a little bit endearing, and it's also a little bit puzzling.
Oh yeah, and deny it to the fullest.
Deny it to the absolutely, yeah.
So we still talk about that, and and things like that, and so that's a lot of fun. But Uno's a big one. We'll also do some apples to apples, but that can get a little dicey depending on.
Oh yeah, I know that's got to be the right crowd for sure.
Yeah.
So aside from Uno and aside from apples to apples, what are you grateful for this season? What I was starting to say before is that I think one of the things that helps with figuring out the complicated gratitude feelings that don't quite look the way you think they should look, one of the things that really helps me is to actually drill down to the things that I am immeasurably grateful for. And that's where I wanted to end us today, is just thinking about those things and giving us those anchors to hold on to as we move into the rest of this season.
For me, especially when I think of the holidays and being there with my whole family, yes, they can absolutely drive me crazy and there can be stresses and all kinds of things. But I feel so grateful. I mean, I have a really big, very supportive as much as they can. Like, I know if I ask, I need help, I need someone here today, at least one, if not, who knows how many family members that would be coming to help me any way they can. And I, realizing that's not something that everybody has. And I have so many people in my family that's the way that it works. And I am absolutely grateful for that. So it's like, when I'm sitting there and the conversation is just like one where I'm rolling my eyes or, I'm like, clenching my fist, but it's like, what? These people truly love me and they support me. And like, I am so grateful for that. And, I can kind of like center myself on those thoughts.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. And I think that the second part of what you said is really important. Thinking about specifically how to put your gratitude into practice and put it to good use in the moments when you need it, because you are going to need it, and having it there at your fingertips in your mind to focus on in those moments when you're gritting your teeth and clenching your fists. I think that's really valuable. And that's something that I'm going to try doing this year too. Because as much as Thanksgiving and Christmas are both always challenging for me with various family dynamics going on and with a young child, I do have a lot to be grateful for. And one of the things that I am especially grateful for this time of year is the fact that I love big holiday meals and they don't scare me anymore. They used to. And the stress of kind of restricting what I was going to eat and planning it out ahead of time and thinking about it for days on end, planning out my runs for optimal, calorie burn and all that. Like, that's a mentality that I lived in for about 10 years. So the return of, well, not the return of, but in my adult life, the birth of a time when I get to just say, hey, it's Thanksgiving, all my favorite stuff, and really enjoy it and not worry about it. That's a really, really big deal. And it did not happen overnight. And I don't think that struggles with food and eating are by any means out of my life for good. There will always be an extent to which I thought Jesse Thomas said this really beautifully on the most recent Work, Play, Love podcast with Lauren Fleshman when they were talking about Mary Kane and all the things going on at Nike and disordered eating. And Jesse Thomas, who is Lauren Fleshman's husband, struggled with a pretty serious eating disorder when he was a college runner. And he just said really candidly, this stuff is in your brain forever. It never really goes away. And it moved me that he was willing to say that, especially coming from a dude. There was something very validating about that because I've struggled with it so much. And the fact that I struggle with it so much less now just makes me feel really, really powerfully grateful for the ability to change and to discover my limits and to be kinder to myself and give myself more space. That's a huge win in this category. And the second thing about winter and the holidays that I love is the fact that my body handles winter running really well. Winter running has always been my favorite. And I know that that is not everybody's case there for so many reasons. You will never hear me say that it's because I'm tough. It is not because I'm tough. It is because for whatever reason, my body can handle it and I happen to like it. There is nothing willpowery or tough about it. I just love putting on all that cool winter running gear and going outside for a run. I really, really do. And I am grateful that I love it. And I'm grateful that it is not a struggle for me to get out of bed in the dark in the winter and go running, because I think that that's kind of a superpower of mine. And it's a superpower that I have, for the most part, been given. And so I don't want to discount that at all. Everyone comes into this world in a different body. Everyone's bodies can do different things. This is something that my body can do. Enjoying holiday meals now is also something that my body can do. And those are the things that I am trying to focus on a daily basis. The fact that I have this habit and it is here for me in a way that I always hoped it would be, but for a good part of my life wasn't necessarily sure it would be.
I just want to say, I absolutely loved watching you talk about that because I was so happy for you. And whenever you were like saying how big holiday meals aren't a stress for me like they used to be, you had not only do you have a smile, but you had this genuine look on your face that was amazing. I wish I was had the ready MK screenshot.
The MK screenshot. She's so good at those. Oh, thank you.
It was just this perfect, I light up hey, I've achieved this. And it was really an awesome look on your face.
Thank you. Thank you. That really means a lot to me. It's been really fun to talk to you on the air for real. And I'm so glad that we got to do this. I feel like we have a lot in common. We've struggled with a lot of things similar to one another and very different from one another. But I admire you so much and I love your perspective. And of course, I'm going to kiss your butt one more time. I am so grateful for all that you do for us. You work so hard. We put out so much audio and we put it in this folder called Raw Uglies, and you take it and you make it beautiful. And that is so huge. And we would not be doing all the things we're doing, including the Holiday Strength Challenge, without you. So thank you.
Thank you guys so very much. I would have to say too, I'm so very, very grateful to be doing all of this with you. And you know how much I admire you. I mean, we take care of each other.
Yeah, we do. We do.
And, it's meant a lot. I mean, yeah, we all do a shit ton of work, but I mean, it's very rewarding.
It's very rewarding. All of you who are listening, we love you so much. And there is nothing we would rather be doing than this. So with that, it's time to be intentional this holiday season. Today is Black Friday. What we don't want is to end this coming month feeling like we are digging ourselves out of a hole. Hello, New Year's resolution bullshit. And we've got something for you on that too. Don't you worry. Black Friday kicks off a month of consumption. And that is okay because that's the culture that we live in. That is what it is. And you are not going to change it by being extra virtuous and restricting your spending unnecessarily, restricting your eating unnecessarily. This day and this month can send people in a lot of different directions. And I want you to feel like this is a space where you can think and you can reflect and you can find your holiday strong without stressing yourself out too much or feeling like this is about accountability, because that's not what this is about. So When it comes to Black Friday, think about upgrades that are going to add something to your running, essentials that you know you need. Do the things you want today. Love the things you love and really love them instead of saying, oh, I really shouldn't. Like, drink the buttered cider, guys, and have a plan for what you need to get in 2020. And on that note, 1 week from today, Friday, December 6th, we are having our 2020 planning webinar. MK is going to be walking you all through how she plans out her year of running, how she looks at the calendar, how she decides on events, how she decides on training periods, and where she wants to focus her energy and what she wants to do. And she's going to help you do the same. We have a huge audience for this already, and it is growing, and we want it to grow as much as possible. So please continue to sign up. We will include a link in the show notes. 1 week for today at 2 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to sit down with all of you and we're going to go over how to plan your year of running. And it's going to be great. And we want you all there. And until then, you are coached, you are loved. Go win it Black Friday and have an amazing rest of the long weekend. And get excited to send your kids back to school on Monday. I know I am. Yay!
Yay!